Hello, everybody. Apologies again for anyone who's been to my other sessions today. I'm having some lag in getting onto the screen. So my poor speakers and panelists here have to sort of wait until I catch up, but I'm adding it to the lessons learned log, so it's not all lost. Welcome to session 26, and absolute kudos to anyone who's been here from the start, because it was about 2 a.m. our time, my time. But absolutely delighted to be welcoming a panel today who are going to be talking to us about leading with EQ. Now, some of you have met me before. I'm Jo Candlish. Been involved in the PMO leader since the start of these conferences. This is our 5th. It's been amazing to see it grow and this whole community develop where we get to share and learn from each other. And I'm particularly excited about this panel because I think we're going to be talking about those real secrets to success that are less tangible than perhaps our change frameworks and the things that we can write down and see on paper. So some housekeeping before we get started. Don't forget, on the right-hand sides of your screens, we've got the chat. So jump in there and let us know where you're joining us from. Say hello. There is also the Q&A button. So if you want to post any questions, we will try and take those towards the end of the panel. And of course, don't forget, after the panel, not before, pop and see our sponsors as well, because they do make this all possible for us. But in the meantime, stick with us. I did some quick maths before we started, and we have over 100 years of experience on this call, which is a little bit scary. And I'd like to say I'm contributing quite a lot of the years to that. It's not my fellow panelists, but we have Alba, Kasim, and Becca here to talk to us about EQ. I'm going to ask everyone to give a quick introduction, and then we're going to jump into the discussion. So, Becca, I'm going to start with you in the top of my screen. Let us know who you are and what you're all about.
Okay, so I'm Becca Prideaux. I'm another contributor of a large number towards that 100. My specialism is leadership development and change management. I've worked with a lot of PMOs and project people across the years. And for me, I am all about getting people to become more curious and to use that curiosity in practical ways as they drive their PMO to work more effectively with people.
And the creator of the applied curiosity model, I believe, as well.
I am indeed.
Excellent. Kasim, let us know who you are and what you're about.
Thank you very much. I am a PMO professional, a project manager for 17 years. I have 27 years experience. I have a lot of experience at the defense side, defense projects and space equipment development projects. And I always manage the project, but I always manage the people we will discuss in this panel. It was very difficult. We will share our experience, our lessons, and other concerns. Sometimes we injured. How can we manage the peoples before the projects?
I think that's a very good point. I suspect we'll be getting into that in the next half an hour for sure. Thank you. And Alba.
Hello, everyone. I'm Alba Bicha. I'm joining from Spain. I've been a little bit more than 15 years experience to this panel, so maybe less than some of my colleagues. I've been doing project and transformations for most of my professional life. Big tech companies, then client, and now I'm bridging the gap between both of them. And I counted last time for this panel, and I worked in over 12 countries and with more than 20 nationalities, which bring this magic of the EQ to the focus, because you need to work with many different people and with many different cultures. And well, my international experience, I hope it adds to this discussion.
Fantastic, thank you. Yes, I think it's more important than ever when you've got those cultural differences as well, to be remembering that this is a people business that we're in, isn't it? So let's start with something very broad, but let's sort of set our foundations. What does EQ mean in the workplace to yourselves? When we talk about EQ, what is that and why is it important for the workplace? I'm going to start with Kasim on that one, but then let's all jump in and share our thoughts.
Okay, thank you. Before decades, IQ is very important for the technical professionals and technical teams. We measure their IQ levels, and we focus on their points, which IQ is very high, is very important. But today's IQ is important, but EQ also equally important as IQ, because today's we manage the big teams. There are a lot of technical teams, non-technical teams, and other people. On the other hand, projects are not delivered by the Gantt charts, dashboards, templates, milestones, etc. Projects delivered by the people. There are no any robots, other AI machines, etc. We work with the teams, we work with the peoples, and different type peoples, different level concerns, their interests, etc. By the way, EQ by EQ, PMO leaders can create a positive work environment. It's very important. If you don't work in the positive environment, you couldn't produce any value. It's and PMO leaders fosters the strong relationships between the team. Very different levels: senior manager, technicians, engineer, etc. We have to manage and we foster the strong relationship between these teams, and we also, we drive the project success. But project success belongs to these concerns. EQ means ability to recognize and understand and manage the one's own emotions. Manage our emotions and manage the others' emotions. Successful PMO leaders develop a deep understanding, because you have to understand your team's emotions, strengths, weakness. Every day you have to make the SWOT analysis for each team members. By recognizing their emotions, triggers is very important. When you say anything, someone triggered by your words, any one words can trigger the other's emotions, and they always react. They have a reaction, some especially stressful situations, stress meetings, etc. And by EQ, we have to maintain the composure, because we manage our teams. Emotionally intelligent PMO leaders, they adapt and manage their emotions and impulse, because self-awareness is very important. We manage myself, my emotions, and I have to learn my self-awareness. this allows the lead by example. I have to be example for my teams. When I know my triggers, my emotions, my concerns, my teams knows my important things, interests, etc. And I have to, as a project manager or PMO manager, I have to remain calm and compose the challenge times. By the way, self-awareness and self-management, on the other hand, empathy and relationship management is very important. Understanding another perspective and give the another shoes for empathy, because you can think about any person at your project teams, but if you couldn't understand their emotions, if you couldn't think as him or her, you couldn't understand him or her.
Exactly. And that sense of perspective and understanding where other people are coming from and their drivers, I think, is absolutely crucial. Becca and Alba, what would you add to that in terms of what it means in the workplace?
Well, I think to build on what Kasim's been saying, absolutely that emotional intelligence, to be able to read the people in the room and to read the people in your team and in your programs and projects is absolutely critical. And absolutely, we're leaders, and where we're great at this, what we start seeing is increased psychological safety. If people want to know more about that, James just did a great session on it. Yeah. And also you see much more trust building in relationships. And we know that when there's a high trust environment, everything happens quicker, it happens more easily, and we start seeing the way that our PMOs are valued and received in the organisation changes fundamentally to being much more constructive. We stop being the people who are just there to put process in place. As Kasim said, projects are at the end of the day all about people, and when we are great at working with people and have a high IQ, EQ, as well as a high low technical skill level, we're then able to unlock the potential in those people and make really exciting things happen around us. So for me, it's a key way of unlocking the people around programs and projects and in the workplace and leadership in general, to be honest.
I'd like to add to that. Yes, emotional or empathy are critical, but it's as well about how do we use that awareness? How do we, in a context or in a concrete scenario, how do we use that awareness and how we adapt and how we can influence for successful in the project, and maybe some very, very simple real life examples, like when you're a project manager and you notice that tension in your team because you're in a meeting, and maybe instead of keep pushing harder on a timeline, on a deadline, on something, you just have to take a step back, realign what's happening, what's the temperature in the room, why, and then you can adapt to it. Or when you're aware of those things as well, you speak different languages, not only like Spanish or English or French or whatever, but it's you're dealing with executives and you're saying the same message but in a different way, or to the delivery teams that they need to act differently. So I think that's key. The empathy, yes, but we need to see how we take that and how we use it as a PMO to unlock people and the project, which at the end of the day, it's what it's expected from us.
Definitely.
Yeah, for sure. So what are the signs then that it is the emotional intelligence that's maybe off? If something's starting to slow down or things aren't quite working, what are the signs that people should be looking for? How do they recognize when it's time to take that step back, as you say, Alba, and sort of reassess what's going on?
What I usually do, and it's very simple thing, is I normally start my meetings with some small chit chat. how you doing? What's the weather? You have any news where you look nice today, or you put different thing, and people like to talk because we like to talk, and they say things. Well, maybe yes, because I'm tired, or the weather is whatever, and you can pick those small things, understand what's going on, and maybe try to move a meeting from a side or to another. If everything's great and fine, and you have more harder message that could go well. If things are not going okay, you might need to adjust saying what you need to say anyways. But you need to adjust some speaking to people, reading people, listening to people, but really listening to people. I think it's a very good indicator of how it goes.
I would absolutely agree, and I think there are some systemic things that you'll notice happening when the EQ and IQ are off. You'll notice less trust. You'll notice that everything takes longer, particularly in review meetings. Things keep cycling back and cycling back. You'll find yourself justifying where things are quite a lot. Again, that implies that something's off somewhere, and you need to re-establish and revisit those relationships and make sure they're really strong. And to build on Alba's point, maybe you just feel nobody's listening, so it's an internal reaction to what's happening around you. But I've said this a million times, and we're still not there. It's going to feel quite combative rather than collaborative. Potentially, you're going to see that kind of disengagement Alba was talking about. People not owning things because they want it to be somebody else's problem. And you're probably feeling really frustrated. And for me, that's the big trigger. If I'm feeling frustrated, that's a great sign, a great trigger for me personally to then look at, so what is going on for everybody else around me? Are they okay? What is happening for them? What is their experience? What's their experience of me and what I'm trying to do?
That's a really good point, isn't it? Those are the things where something's just got sticky. That's the way I always think of it. It should all be working, but it's not quite. It's fascinating. We had a panel on AI this morning, which you'd think would be almost the opposite end of this discussion. And yet actually most of the panel ended up being around the human element of that and how important it is and how AI can sort of optimize us as humans. But one of the things that stuck in my mind was a point Holger made, which was, we're all getting used to using AI for things like taking minutes in a meeting, but we can actually get it to analyze how decisions are being made in that meeting. And one example he gave, which tests effectively assesses the mood of the people when they're making decisions, and that maybe somebody was grumpy in a steerco and made a decision. And, that's a very interesting aspect, I think, that we can add in between the technology and the people to recognize what's influencing things.
Absolutely, and there's some great work coming out of companies like Meeting Quality into the human-centric side of the data. So one of the things I've worked on and worked with a few people with in recent years is a 360 assessment of PMOs themselves that looks at how they're perceived and how they're interacting, and that human part of the picture, which I think is really, really important. And yeah, use AI to help us do that, because analysing that amount of data would be really tough and full of our biases and what we saw in that meeting.
Exactly. I think it's a fascinating development that it will give us more insight into EQ rather than sort of, there's a fear that it will just reduce everything to data and that kind of thing. So what are some simple practices or habits? What's the practical applications for the people listening to us today that they can build this and sort of strengthen EQ within their teams?
I can say something.
Go for
it. Before the practices, we have to be honest for the self-awareness. It's very easy. It can be called as a mirror test. If you talk with on the front of the mirror and answer the questions about us, we can understand our EQ levels, EQ professionals. and we can define our emotions and triggers. After that, after self-awareness, we can use the reflection mode. Our experience have to be turned into insights. Uh, uh, because each projects after each projects we learned a lot of lesson learned, and we have to share it to other projects our experience, and we reflect our emotions uh, and behaviors of our teams to other projects before new projects. It's a reflection, and there is no any very strong tool for the EQ development. Uh, we have to micro grow growth and micro behaviors. We have to change every day or every month. We can change the only one our emotions or our behaviors. And uh, the key points, I think, it's very important for me. We have to practice the pause when we are in the stressful meetings. We can pause the and we can break uh, our meetings, and we, it's it it gives our mindfulness, because we have to reading or hearing the room sounds, room
Mm.
emotions. It's a social awareness. We have to have a self-awareness, and we have to have a social awareness. After that, we can define the same some some practices. For example, we can talk with our team members. We have to open the feedbacks. We have to be honest to hear or listen their opinions about your emotions uh, and your behaviors.
I think that's so true, and it's a very good link to the session just before ours by James Evans, I think it was, on psychological safety, where unless we create the environment for psychological safety in our organizations, people can't use their EQ. They can't trust they might trust their gut, but they can't vocalize it, can they? They can't sort of maybe speak up. So I think there's a real synergy there for sure.
Might add a small tip to that, because as I said before, I'm a fan of the check-ins at the beginning of the meeting, but there's some of the things that really worked as well, and I do quite often, is the check-in after the meeting. So how did you take this? How do you understood this? Were you really worried about the timeline, or was the task? Or and that people they can communicate maybe more freely when you're in those one-to-one, to build that trust, because you're totally right, we need to build that safety environment, because we PMOs, we only work successfully if there's a trust environment, if people trust us to say what really goes not okay, or what we can push because it's working. We need that information, and people need to feel safe to share and to communicate with us. So check-ins at the beginning and some check-ins after are working quite well.
And if I could kind of share some things on top of that, absolutely those check-ins, absolutely those self-awareness things are really, really important. And I think when we're looking to, as a team or as individuals, really develop our EQ, we need to build on those so that we are then, to Kasim's point about deciding what those insights are, and then really important, doing something about them. Joe, you very kindly mentioned the applied curiosity model at the top of this. And for me, that's one of the places this comes in, and it's a tool and a set of thinking you can apply across a number of things to multiply your EQ in particular. Being curious is really, really important, but saying we're curious is different than applying it. So the applied curiosity model starts with research. So that's what did I notice? What are other people saying? The information you get out of the kind of check-ins that Alba's talking about, the kind of insights that Kasim's talking about, or any of the feedback that you get. And absolutely getting feedback is vital to developing your EQ. You then need to reflect on it. So you need to think about, what does that actually really mean? And how does it link to everything else I know? What else is going on? And then you need to react, which is the really critical third stage of the applied curiosity model, because otherwise it's been a lovely academic exercise, and that's great. And I'm all about the so what, and so the big so what is the react. And I think getting into the habit of just taking yourself through that cycle and thinking is really, really important. You can do it as a team in a team meeting. So what did we learn in this meeting? What's our reflections on that? What are we going to do? You can use it in one-to-ones, and you can use it with yourself as well. So one of my absolute favorite tools that's really practical, it's really cheap, it won't annoy your organization, doesn't require a big budget, is a notebook and a pen, and just journal kind of once a week, once a day, after and or before. Yes, this is what I like. Mine's on the left. Yes, absolutely. If we're all sharing books, well, no, it doesn't show the background, but if you're like me and you love good notebooks, it's a really good excuse to buy a good notebook. But any piece of paper, any file on your computer, it doesn't matter. Do it spoken, but just take yourself through. What did I learn today? What did I notice? What are my insights from that? What are my reflections, and what am I going to do as a result? And getting into the habit of doing that. As a PMO, we are so well placed to do that for our organizations as well. You talked earlier about lessons learned. We can bring that emotional intelligence element of what happened on this project, how did it feel, into lessons learned, and help spread that through the organization. We can use it, and some of the things that we find difficult, we can find opportunities for ourselves and our team to do more of. So if it's about reading a room and chairing a meeting, hey, rotate the chair in your team meeting, get somebody else to do it, so you all get practice and give each other feedback. We work in projects. There are lots of opportunities to try things in lower risk environments before we go into that big high risk one. And every little practical thing like that we do is absolutely worth it. You'd asked us before the session to think about ways. I stopped writing after I got to 50 or so. So if anybody wants more ideas, just message me on LinkedIn. I've got a big long list. I will type it up first because you won't manage my handwriting. But there are lots and lots of different ways that don't have to cost you or your organisation money, which I know can be a challenge to getting budget spent on your development.
True. Shall we?
Yes, I looked at my notes. I want to add some statements. I take a note. Celebrate the learnings. Celebrate not instead of the milestone outcomes, etc. We can add this your notes.
I think that's a really good point. Celebrating the learnings and learning from things that go wrong. I mean, we've all done lesson learned experiences, but making sure that we take everything as an opportunity to have learned something. What there's a phrase, isn't there? It's either a win or a lesson, something like that. It's not win or fail.
I think you should celebrate your wins as well. What went really well, and how can we do more of that? I think we get a bit hung up on celebrating what we maybe would do differently.
Even the tiny ones.
Tiny wins. Let's do more of the things that work. It's more fun.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. I'm going to suggest we have a quick look at some of the questions that have come in, because there are some that I think are quite relevant. This is one I particularly like from Jamila in Turkey, who's asking how EQ helps PMOs to handle resistance to change, because we know that's quite a feature of what we do. And quite often we're delivering change out to an organisation. So we need that whole sort of change management toolkit to our at our disposal. What are your thoughts on that?
I think we need to help resistance. We have to read resistance, and that is the tricky part sometimes. We don't have to fight it. I mean, we're going and that's it, and we go my way. We need to read it, understand, and then adapt. That's what we're saying at the very, very beginning. And again, it's listening behind the word, and we were talking about the safety environment and the trust, but the very important thing is once you have the information, you need to act, because people what they keep at the end, or they should, it's the facts. What did you do with my information? What did you do with the feedback I gave you? And that is super powerful. Sometimes we try to push something, and it's more like, okay, let's pause. I'm listening to you. I take that information. I might not be able to do exactly what you want, but I'm trying to adapt it. I understand what underneath you really need, and I'm doing something with it. It might be talking to a manager. It might be putting some communication in place. It might be doing a workshop. It might be going bowling to get everybody to know each other and have things running smoothly. But that communication, that feedback, that everything, we need to read it, and we need to do something, and that really helps the change, at least in my experience.
Thank you.
Yes, I want to add your answer and for Jamila's questions. I think that the resistance usually comes from the process and governance in the companies and in the project. You have to develop and maintain the governance uh, environment as a project management office. Define your process, but some process uh, creates difficulties for the team members, and after that, team members resist your process, and they sometimes work around the process definitions. Uh, I I suggest that as a project manager, project management office manager, focus on the people, not the governance or not the process. Process can be changed. Governance methodologies can be changed according to your culture. But if you generate the fear culture, maybe you can execute your governance, execute your process, but you can lose your team members.
Yeah, I think there's an important distinction, isn't there, between resistance to change of something new that might be coming into an organization, and then resistance actually within your project teams to some of the things that we need to do. Especially, it's always a good sign if people are resisting and going around a process. You want to make sure that process actually works. It might be people don't want to do it. It might be it doesn't actually work for them and doesn't help them to move forward. And I think it's super important, isn't it, to be able to remember that and distinguish between the two, and assume positive intent always, I think, when people are sort of moving around something. Okay, I'm very conscious we've been talking already for over half an hour, which is incredible. But we've got a brilliant question here, and I think this will be a great way to just give everybody something to take away that our audience would be able to act on. So it does happen, but sometimes portfolio teams end up burnt out. I'm sure anywhere that we've worked or can remember or have experienced, but I have heard about it. And get slightly change fatigued. So what's the single most intelligent thing or emotionally intelligent thing that we can do as leaders to reset that tone and reinvigorate people? Alba, I'm going to start with you and put you on the spot.
That's a tricky one. I've been through some projects where there's people burnout. Usually, what I experience is about they're tired or of something. So it's normally what I've seen. It's not about the work itself or the task. It's more like emotional. They don't know what to go, or they have fears. So again, I will stick to my message throughout the panel. You need to pause, diagnose what's really coming from, where is coming from, and then the answer might be different if you are able to read the root cause of it. And the root cause sometimes is not about what you see; it's underneath. And that's where you have to identify. Once to identify that, let's say you need to open honest conversation with those people. So the trust you built previously, it's key. Because I might say at some point, well, I'm not okay, and this is the reason. Because what you see usually is just frustration, but frustration, it means something, it comes from somewhere. So and then when it explodes, you need to really listen carefully, deeper, and then rebuild with a purpose. I mean, once you understand that, okay, it's because you're tired of what? It's because you don't have enough visibility. You don't know where you're going. It's because you have problems with your teams. It's because some deadlines, objectives are not clear. Then you act. But first thing is just pause, try to understand the problem, and then based on that problem, you can do something.
I think my answer would be quite similar to Alba's. I think it's time to do some really great listening. So for me, the most emotionally intelligent thing you can do at that point is to listen. And we hear all about being active listeners, but that's not enough. We need to listen with the intent first to understand and then to empathize. So it's not just being involved in the conversation, it's really digging into what's going on beneath the surface. It's kind of listening for what's not said as much as what is said, because until you've diagnosed what's causing that burnout, and is it an individual burnout or is it a team burnout, makes quite a difference to what you're going to do next. Is it that one person who might be the most critical person in your project, or the person with the most influential network, or is it everybody's at that point? Now, hopefully, if you're really emotionally intelligent, you'll have picked some signs up that this is coming, and you'll have been able to intervene a little bit earlier before it gets burnout. If you're at burnout, you absolutely really need to hit that pause. And you need to do it in a way that protects you as well, because we have to acknowledge that as PMO people, we can easily get caught up in that burnout phase too. And we need to do all the things, and Kazim mentioned some really great things to do right at the top of this panel, to make sure that we're not the one who's heading in that direction, so that we can be there for the rest of the team. We can be applying our emotional intelligence, because we're not at that point where it's all gone horribly wrong either. So maybe it's looking after yourself is the start point, not sure.
It's very true, isn't it? And I think you're so right about the listening. I'm a big fan of Steve Peters, the psychologist, who with the chimp paradox, and he makes a point that sometimes, as well as part of the listening, you have to let people just get the frustration out their system first, and not jump into solutionizing and solving the problem. And we're all problem solvers, aren't we, in PMO? It's what we do. We're project managers, we're PMO, we're there to fix problems. And sometimes you need to let people just get it all out their system first, then they're ready to move on and start solving, and that kind of thing too. So there's a real theme coming through here about pausing, stopping, taking stock, listening before jumping into answers. Kazim, would you have a sort of top tip that people can take away, one thing they can do to help really reset that tone?
I think question is very has a really a challenge for me. I can answer on the other answers. I can say the empathy over the enforcement. You couldn't enforce your teams, or you couldn't build on the enforcement your PMO. you have to do this practice, this you have to prepare this dashboard, etc., etc. But it's very difficult to build this PMO any organizations. On the other hand, I can say the clarity and composure, because you have to be honest, and you have to maintain the clarity environment, because you have transparency. If you any team members look to you, he or she didn't any another opinions or another thinking. You have to be transparent, and you have to maintain the clarity.
I have one very last thing, and I know we're on the clock, but I was thinking about some things. There's different responses to different cases, but one that most of the times work is remind people why they work matters, because sometimes they forget, and that's the first step to take them back into the team.
I think that's such a good point as well, why we're doing something, and the pride that you can take in doing something can be very reinvigorating, can't it, when you sort of stop and remember, and looking at how far you've come, and that sort of bigger picture that we're part of. Thank you very much. We are at, I can't believe we're at time already. We have hardly scratched the surface, I think, of this topic, which is so wide-reaching. We've got, I'm sorry, everyone who has put questions in, we've got a couple there we didn't manage to answer. But I would encourage everybody, we've got the networking area, do get out there and carry this conversation on yourselves. Look up our speakers here. They're putting insights out all the time, and I know you'll find them all on LinkedIn. I want to thank you all so much for sharing your expertise, and sorry for highlighting just how many years we have between us at the beginning. But it just struck me as amazing. So thank you very much. And everybody who's been listening, I hope you've enjoyed that. Thank you for joining in on the chat and your questions. Check the schedules. We've got a few more very similar topics coming up, and I know the Americas have also started their stream now. And don't forget to visit our sponsors. They make all this possible for us. But for now, I'm going to say thank you very much for joining us, and we are going to sign off. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you all.